Well, good morning. It's 8 o'clock. Good to see everybody here this morning. I'm going to ask Representative Montahan if he will open with prayer this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us bow. Lord, we come to you today, Lord, just thankful, Lord, for another day, Lord, to see a rising sun this morning, Lord. Lord, we just ask, Lord, that you'd be with us, Lord, as we address these issues that come before us, Lord, to make the state of Georgia better. Lord, again, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for your many blessings. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
To turn that on. Well, good morning again. We've got several bills on the agenda this morning, so we're going to get started. We're going to start with House Bill 861. Representative Wiedauer, if you'll come present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I bring before you House Bill 861, LC 345608. This is a Georgia State Patrol Agency bill. Essentially, what was happening, if you look at line 11, you can see there that at some point some lawyers figured out that they could get some people out of citations if they convinced a judge that the company was only doing interstate or only doing intrastate. By having the "and" there, if they only did one or the other, they're getting them out of those citations. This allows for it to be intra or inter or both. Pretty straightforward, but like I said, it created kind of a loophole where people were sliding through on some of their citations. And then on line 27, it's just the yearly update to go to the 2020 standards. That's all I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
And again, you say this was brought to you by the department.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, does anybody have any questions? Number 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This would in no way change the exemption for farmers that are hauling their grain to their buying point that is able to do that?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody sign up on this? I do not see any other questions. Like I said, pretty simple bill, and I don't see where anybody has signed up to speak to the bill. At this time would be the time for a motion. Okay, I think we got Representative Ridley with a motion and Representative Prince with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. All right, I think we're going to go to 819 next, House Bill 819. Chairman Hitchens, I think, will be presenting the bill this morning. So if he'll come to the podium.
Let me get situated here. This is House Bill 819, LC 392465. I took this bill over yesterday. I was the second signer, and the first signer and I agreed that perhaps it'd be better if I did it. What this bill does is it provides for a veteran's license for anybody who served in a country that was an ally of the United States during the time of war. As you can see from the audience here, we have several people here from that served in the Korean Army during the Vietnam War. What the bill also provides for is that they be proper documentation. They have an equivalent document of the DD-214 that shows that they served not only in the Korean Army, but they served in time of conflict in Vietnam. I know a lot about, we call them the ROCs, for two reasons. The Republic of Korea, abbreviation is ROC, and they were really a ROC. They were strong fighters, particularly the 9th Infantry Division, known as the White Horse Division. We have several members here that were in the White Horse Division. As many of you know, I spent 13 months in Vietnam in the Marines. I lost my best friend who grew up with me and joined under the buddy system, and he, He got killed on February 7th, 1967. And I always like to quote when I speak of this that, in Shakespeare's King Henry V, when the British army was about to take on the French army that greatly outnumbered them, when they were trying to get the troops ready for battle, he said, "For those who bleed with me today will be my brothers forever." And I think it's just a matter of honor that they're required to be United States citizens now and citizens of the state of Georgia. And I'd be glad to open any questions.
Representative Perkle, number 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to publicly acknowledge, thank you for your service, my friend, and to the gentleman in the audience, thank you. I think this is perhaps the absolute least that we can do in this honor, but thank you. Just wanted to comment.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions, we do have several people signed up would like to speak to the bill, and I might get these names wrong, but Gary Goyette. And he is, and come to the podium, and if you state your name and who you're with.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
I am President Gary Goyette from the Vietnam Veterans Association, Chapter 1030 of Cumming, Georgia. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to meet and join Korean American Vietnam War Veterans Association. We sponsored them as a chapter of the Vietnam Veterans Association of America. We've had several meetings together, both business and social. I had the opportunity, 2 tours in Korea, one in '69 and one in '84, to work alongside ROK Army soldiers. I also had the opportunity when I served in Vietnam in 1970 to get and know actual ROK soldiers. There's not a more dedicated military that we were affiliated with in our allied endeavors, World War I, World War II, and Vietnam. I think the least we can do is grant them the privilege and the honor of being considered as a veteran in the state of Georgia. In addition, I attended our VVA conference convention last year in Spokane, and there was 2 resolutions we introduced. One was to honor them and have given them full membership in our association. Because of IRS rules, etc., that resolution did not pass. However, it will be introduced in 2021, and also there is a resolution that passed that is now being pursued through the Veterans Affairs of recognizing them as our allies in Vietnam and affording them benefits through the VA in recognition of their service concerning their afflictions derived from Agent Orange and PTSD. So I would like to strongly endorse their request before your body of gaining recognition as being a veteran. That's all I have to say. Any questions?
I see no questions, but I would like to reiterate what Representative Perkle said. Thank you for your service, sir.
You're welcome.
Sung Min, might not pronounce that right, but
we are member of the Korean Vietnam veterans in Georgia who fought alongside the U.S. military during the Vietnam War. On May 9, 1964, President Park Chung-hee of South Korea accepted President Johnson's request to join U.S. Army forces. Johnson's beginning in March 23, 1973, and for 8 years and 8 months, thereafter, more than 320,000 soldiers for the Korean Armed Forces risked their lives for fight for democracy and peace. Alongside U.S. Armed Forces in Vietnam, South Korea had 5,099 casualties and about 11,000 wounded soldiers, and many are still suffering from their injuries even to this day. Our members have immigrated to the United States and have worked hard and established a life in the United States. We are very proud that in 2019, the governor of Georgia proclaimed March 23rd as Georgia's Korean Veterans Day. Furthermore, we are grateful that on March 14, 2019, and March 21st, 2019, the Georgia Senate and House of Representatives respectfully passed a resolution acknowledging the sacrifice and service of the Korean Vietnam veteran. As a result of the resolution, we were able to become legitimate member of a Vietnam War Veteran of America, Chapter 1030, and we have attended their monthly meeting and social event. Our request in 2020 is to obtain Georgia Vietnam Veteran driver's license and license plate. We would appreciate it. You would help with the passage of this with the Senate and the House of Representatives during this session. For your reference, we can obtain notarized and translated copy of our Vietnam War record from South Korea if needed. With respect and gratitude, member of Korean Vietnam Veteran, Georgia. And also I got some picture of during the Vietnam era, chain of commander. Great General Westmoreland, also General Abrams, and also typical infantry, Tiger infantry soldiers. I hope that reminds you of Vietnam days. Thank you.
Number 15 has a question. Yes, Representative Kennard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to say we appreciate your allyship during those conflicts. And in Gwinnett County, we really benefit from a strong Korean American and Vietnamese American presence. You've really added a lot to our county and to our state, so thank you.
Thank you.
No other questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sun Y. Kim. Yes.
Okay, if I solve him as a translator.
Absolutely.
충성!
기다려봐요.
제가 아무래도 읽어야 될 것 같아요. 브라이언을 트랜스레이트 그렇게
오케이.
하시면 되죠. 네, 그렇게 말씀 영어로. 아니 그래도 브라이언이 한다고.
예. 브라이언 트랜스피킹?
예.
오케이. 예.
그러니까 제가 한다고 하면 돼요.
예.
브라이언을 트랜스레이트. 그렇게 말씀하시면
야,
돼요.
브라이언
트랜스레이트.
트랜스레이트. 오케이? 예.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. 제가 할게요. Okay. Yeah. So, my honor. Okay. So we have practiced in English. He speaks very good, common English, but he was novice to say something. So let me, just read it. When you see the pamphlet, okay, the third page, you can see that. Okay. So Song Yong Kim, my name is Song Yong Kim, and I'm a Secretary General of Korean Veterans Association of Southeast Region, USA. It's my honor to share this word before distinguished congressmen. In South Korea, when they become 20 years old, young men have to fulfill their military duties, serving their home nation. In 1966, I joined the Korean Army to serve in Vietnam under the leadership of the former South Korean President Park Chung-hee and the former U.S. President Lyndon Johnson. To this day, I still remember my fellow Korean and American soldiers who bravely fought for our nations and freedom. In 1994, I immigrated to the United States with my family and become a U.S. citizen. Now, I have 4 grandchildren. In 2016, one of them asked me why I went to Vietnam, which was not my home country. I told my grandson that although it was a very difficult decision, I had to believe it is honor and privilege to serve people and fight for freedom all over the world. Soon after, my grandson decided to also become a soldier, following my footsteps. Now he attended the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign as a ROTC scholarship recipient. After 3 years of his ROTC, 3 years of his studies, he will become a new commissioned officer in the U.S. Army. During his ROTC interview, he was asked, "Why do you want to join the ROTC?" My grandson responded by saying, "I want to serve and protect my country as my grandfather did for America and Korea during the Vietnam War." I am immensely proud of him and look forward to seeing his bright future as a Korean American. As a member of Korean Vietnam War veterans with advancing age, more than anything, we Korean Americans are proud of that fact that we fought for freedom and democracy alongside with the U.S. soldiers. With your blessings, we would like to receive Vietnam Veterans Mark. That is our very last wish and prayer in my whole life. Thank you so much. Yeah. Any questions?
Any questions? Again, thank you, sir. And I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but Boing Yeo?
Dear Senators and members of the House of Representatives, my name is Bong Hyun-young, and I am the Vice President of the Korean Vietnam War Veterans Association of Southeast Regions, USA. In 1970, I fought in the Vietnam War as an ally of the U.S. military under the Republic of Korea's 9th Infantry Division, also known as the White Horse Division. despite the dangers and as I watched my fellow soldiers die and get injured, I put my life on the line to defend the safety and the security of the citizens of the Cam Nam Bay regions, Vietnam. In the 1987, I immigrated to the USA with my family. In order to be successful and achieve my American dream, I worked more than 15 hours every day. I was able to establish my one company, Family Folder Inc., which now has over 40 employees. I have lived rewarding life as a U.S. citizen. In 1998, two of my children received scholarship from the Korean American Scholarship Foundation, KASF, during college. In December 2019, I wanted to pay it forward and made $25,000 donation to KASF to help other college students. My granddaughter is following in my footsteps of military service and active her high school Air Force Junior ROTC. She is the one of 200 students selected for the Air Force Junior ROTC Flight Academy 2020 summer program. She will receive a full scholarship to fund her participation in the 8-week program, where she will earn a pilot license and 12 college credit and be one step closer to achieving her aspirations to become an Air Force officer. At this time, my one wish is for my family to see that my service is recognized by the U.S. government for my time in the Vietnam War as an ally to the U.S. military. As a current U.S. citizen who fought in the Vietnam War, I wish to receive the same honor and privilege that is given to the U.S. Vietnam War veterans. Having a veteran designation printed on my driver's license would afford the recognitions, and it would help in getting a Vietnam War veteran license plate and other benefits of U.S. veterans. I humbly ask the senators and members of the House of Representatives to pass a bill that would allow this to come fruition for myself and my fellow Korean Vietnam War veterans. With deepest respect and gratitude, Bong Hyun-yo, Vice President of the Korean Vietnam War Veterans Association of the Southeast Region, USA. Thank you very much. White horse.
Thank you, sir. I don't see any questions. Thank you again for your service. Is there Mr. Brian Kim?
Yes, I'm here. Okay, so before I give my short speech, I like to show this certificate of military service. So would you just see Korea, the Republic of Korea is a country who has very well documented. They have all personal document, even 60 years ago, 70 years ago. When you see that document, issued by Korean government and translated and notary public, so there is no possibility the other people pretend them as Korean veterans. So in Georgia, we have about 101 members. Out of them, about 70% of them are citizens. So we are talking about this time 70 people who, as a Georgian, as a U.S. citizens, who can present their military record as endorsed by Korean government and certified at the notary public. So I'm a volunteer, 1 year, just serve for them. I know their wish, they just wanted to have honor. They wanted to show their grandchildren, I did for good for the United States. So there is no other desire, like benefit, according to what I heard from them. So this is all. Thank you so much.
I don't see any questions. Mr. Kim, thank you. Ms. Judy Fincher?
Yes, I'm Judy Fincher, and I'm obviously a resident of Atlanta, and I am the executive assistant for the General Raymond G. Davis Korean War Veterans Association, and I also have been volunteering with this group, the Korean American Vietnam Association, and during this time I've learned so much about the Vietnam War and the Korea veterans, the Korean cultures, and what they have done to help us as Georgia citizens. They fought, as you well know, they fought alongside our veterans, and they left their families, most of them with small children, to come and help fight in Vietnam. And I totally support this bill to allow them to obtain their driver's license showing that they are Vietnam veterans. I think they deserve it, just as the Americans do. I mean, they're living here, they're Georgia citizens, they own property, they own businesses, they contribute to the economy immensely. And they've just helped out in so many ways. They give to charities and their churches. They support all kinds of, educational benefits for other people, and it's just something that they absolutely deserve. And I just hope that you will allow them this honor. It's not anything deserving, it's an honor, and I think it will bring the state of Georgia together even more if you allow this. Thank you.
I see no questions. We have no other people signed up to speak to the bill, but I would like to comment. It's number 8.
At the proper time, I'd like to be recognized for motion.
All right, number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a few questions, I think. And my question goes to what has it been coordinated with the, Department of Driver Services as well as the Georgia, the Veterans Affairs? What type of paperwork? I know as a veteran, show a DD 214 and we're good to go. What paperwork?
Unfortunately, I have not, because I just took this bill over yesterday. I thought Mr. Representative Park was going to be here too, but driver services used to be under me, and I know a lot about it. And this isn't going to be a difficult transition. If that's the equivalent form of the DD 214, there won't be any issue. But I'd also like to say it's not just Korean. We had 5 allies during the
Exactly.
Vietnam War: Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, and Thailand also. And I think there's probably some other people that may apply, but they're going to be very, very small numbers.
Mr. Chairman, we've got some, Ms. Leslie with Driver Services.
There she is.
She can speak
Yeah.
to that.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Shavonda Leslie. I serve as the Director of Governmental Affairs and Communications for the Georgia Department of Driver Services. We don't have a support one way or another for this bill as far as whether or not we can do it. Right now, currently, when someone comes in to get a veteran license, they have to go to the Department of Veteran Administration and bring back that document. So the VA proves whether or not they qualify for a veteran license. Once they bring back that proper document, at that point we issue a veteran's license. So I guess the VA would be the leading factor on that.
And Mr. Chairman, that was just my concern, is that has that been coordinated, what type of document for DDS purposes? So when they come in with a document, it's honored by DDS.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that coordination is closed.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you. Number 14.
Chairman, proper time, I make a motion.
All right, we got 2 of them. Now would be the proper time for number 8 to make the motion.
This committee move this bill forward with a due pass recommendation by unanimous consent.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. And again, thank you for your service. It's been said many times, if you had something to eat this morning, thank a farmer. But you've ate in peace, thank a veteran. Thank you again. All right, at this time, we're going to skip down to House Bill 890. Chairman Watson, thank you for being patient.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It's good to be here this morning. I do bring before you today HB 890, LC 289561. This bill was brought to me by Driver Services. It came as a result of the governor's 4% cuts, 6% cuts to try to save funds. Currently, the Department of Driver Services sends out over 200,000 pieces of certified mail. Of those 200,000 pieces of certified mail, 50% of them come back unreturnable. That comes at a cost of around $1 million that the taxpayers of Georgia are paying to send out certified mail, with 50% of them coming back unreturnable. Their request was to allow the Department of Driver Services to send out driver's license suspension notices by regular mail, only in the child support area and failure to appear in court. And with that, they would be able to save $1 million that they could use in their budget, and it's being wasted anyway currently. So that is basically the bill, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
Do we have any questions? We do. Number 16.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question is line 13, where you're saying certified. If it's sent out certified, don't they have to sign off on that?
They do, and the problem is when they send it certified, they're not finding anybody to sign for it, and it's coming back to them as unreturnable, unable to find anybody, and nobody gets it anyway. So that's where the waste is that there's nobody receiving the mail. We're paying for certified mail at a cost of $5.30, and there's nobody there to receive it. So we're just saying we're still going to send the letter. We're still going to document that we sent the letter, but we're going to just send it regular U.S. Postal Service.
Okay. So, one, Chairman, if we go to line 35, where as opposed to a person, it used to be the proof of receipt was fine for support of conviction, so now you're taking that out, and what is the reason for that?
I don't know. Can Ms.
Le-
Leslie?
Yes, Ms.
speak
Leslie,
to
could
that?
you come up and speak to that, please?
Good morning again. The proof was taken out because there would be no longer that signed portion. And so what we would do would be document the customer's record to notate that this was sent out on this particular date.
Any more questions? Number 17, Representative McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess, Ronnie, you can stay there too as well. My only concern is that I see that we went from shall to may, and it doesn't take very much to, if you may send it or you shall send it. I mean, so why did we take that out? So that's my concern. My concern is you may send it. You may do it, and you may not do it.
We will definitely send out
Well,
notifications.
so can we put shall back in it, that we shall send it? I'm just concerned that now that you've taken out the proof that someone has received any written documentation, and now you went to the word may send, and I'm just concerned that you may and you may not.
So the shall and may was changed for those one offers. We will definitely send them notification out via regular mail, and we will document it in the customer's driving record. It's just for if there's a special case that we didn't consider and it has to be sent out, we didn't want to not be able to send out certified mail for those one offers where they have to have something certified for some specific reason.
I mean, Mr. Chairman, I'm just, what I'm saying is the word shall and may is, don't get me wrong, I understand what you're doing, but it still has me confused that the word may is there and not shall.
Gotcha, I'm clear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Number 10, Representative Perkle.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I can tell you that from personal experience, I never, ever sign for certified mail. And it's not true that often one way of getting out of the proof of receipt of such notice shall be admissible to support is that many people just will not sign on a certified note. And so it appears that we are wasting taxpayer monies because there are many like me that are not going to sign for a certified receipt.
Number 3, Leader Trammell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question and then a comment at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, on the bill. But the question with respect to suspension, and that's what we're talking about, right? Sending notices to someone to say that their license has been suspended so they're no longer authorized to drive on Georgia highways and roads.
Yes, in the case of failure to appear in child support.
And when somebody's, but the suspension isn't forever, is it right? I mean, you can at some point get your license reinstated.
Yes, with the proper approval from child support or from the court.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might ask one additional question, and when somebody reinstates their license, they pay a pretty substantial fee to get their license reinstated. Isn't that true?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, if this is the appropriate time for comment on the bill, comment on it. If I need to wait, I will.
No, you go ahead.
Well, Mr. Chairman, as the certified mail requirement is to be able to prove both receipt, but it's also to be able to prove that it was sent. If we switch to regular mail, we're saying the government has no responsibility to prove that it puts citizens on notice that they're no longer licensed to drive. And if the issue is money, and the certified mail is the thing, then bump the reinstatement fee, exactly the cost of certified mail. But this is very, very dangerous. And this puts a lot of power in the government's hands, where people in court will get in the system and will get convicted of things where they had absolutely no notice from the government. That's very, very dangerous.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay. So the two that we documented, the failure to appear, not only, so when the person, when the customer receives a citation on the side of the road, he or she is given notice that they need to appear in court. At that point, if they fail to appear in court, the court is then required to send them notification to say, hey, you failed to appear in court. So that's, you got notice on the side of the road, you got notice from the court saying you need to appear in court. Now you're gonna get a notice from us saying you didn't do all these things, and so that's your failure to appear. In the case of child support sends notification to the father or the mother saying, hey, pay your child support or your license will be suspended. They do that at least 2 times, maybe a 3rd time. Then they send us notice saying, hey, this person failed to pay their child support, so we need their licenses to be suspended. Prior to us suspending their license, we will then send them a notification saying, hey, we got a notice saying that your license needs to be suspended because you did not pay your child support. If you don't take care of this matter with child support within 30 days, we will suspend your license. So that person, in the case of child support, has received at least 3, maybe 4 notifications that, hey, pay your child support or your license will be suspended. And in each case, our plan is to definitely notate the customer's record that notification has been sent.
Number 9, Representative Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 comments to Mr. McLean's comment. I think the concern was by striking the word shall on lines 33 and lines 13, if we said shall send by regular mail, that at least indicates that a mail piece will be sent. The option to may send leaves that open door as to whether or not we even send that mail piece. That's, I think, Mr. McLean's, Representative McLean's point, and I agree with that. But having operated a U.S. Post Office substation in our retail store for 15 years, there is a less expensive option that the U.S. Postal Service offers to prove of mailing, and it's called certificate of mailing. Costs about $1.10 per mailing. And it's actually a whole lot cheaper to send and prepare than a certified piece of mail. So I'm concerned that, again, we lose the ability to prove that we sent a notice to the recipient. So I would suggest that we add back in the word shall send, but I would offer the opportunity to use a less expensive proof of mailing, and that's exactly what is called by the USPS. It's called proof of mailing. It's a certified stamped by the post office that a batch of mail was addressed to a particular person and it went out to the recipient, that it was indeed mail. There is proof. So I offer that as an option to cut the cost, but still make sure we have record that a mailing was indeed sent.
Go ahead. Yes.
On line 9, it says the department shall suspend as provided. So I think that's the shall that we need to make sure that they're sending the mail. 12, I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah, the department shall send notice on line 12 of any suspension. So that's making them send it.
No.
Yeah. Notice of suspension. They shall suspend notice of suspension.
So we can just put that shall back in 13.
Let's go to number 11, Representative Montahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, first of all, as far as sending certified or regular mail, let me ask you a question. Would this allow them also to email? Like, let's say somebody calls the customer service center and says, hey, I need a copy of this thing. Could you email it to me? This would allow them to get a copy via email as well, wouldn't it? If it's a May?
Correct.
Right. I know that DDS, and I've been working with DDS over the last decade or more, and I know that from where DDS has been in the past and where they are today, DDS is a model of efficiency. And so I support their efforts to streamline their processes as it comes to these notices. And so I applaud y'all's work on this bill here, trying to cut some costs out that are really just not needed. The second thing I want to say, Mr. Chairman, was that these folks are getting the notices, and this is what I'm going to say, and you took the words right out of my mouth, and I'm so glad you said it. They're getting the notices. When they don't show up to pay their child support, when they don't show up to these hearings and these court hearings, that's your notice, and they're getting multiple of these notices. So I fully support y'all. I think this is a good bill to cut some costs here in the state of Georgia. Thank y'all for bringing it.
Thank you.
Number 14. What? No, Chairman Powell, number 8.
Thank you. Couple of questions. How many other instances do we send out certified mail? What about suspension of because of lapse of insurance or something like that?
So on the you have a handout that's all. Are they all? Yeah, there's a handout with a list of instances that we send certified mail to suspend your license, and so the two that would be have the most biggest bang for your buck. Do you not have a copy of it? We can give.
I'm sorry, I don't have a handout.
I'll give you a copy.
Here you go. But just, do we send out a certified mail if there's a suspension based on a lapse of insurance that the insurance company sends in?
We do not. We send out regular mail.
What else? Is there any other cases that we send out a certified letter, bear the expense of a certified letter?
We send for alteration of consciousness for epilepsy, alteration of consciousness for generic, bioptic pending cancellation, DUI juvenile, HV, habitual violator verifications, juvenile suspensions, and physical and mental verifications. So we send out certified mail for those as well as the DUI, as well as the failure to appear and the child support.
Number 14.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see if my colleague up there would entertain a little amendment to this bill. What about if on line 13 we made it read as this: such notice, replace the word shall back in there, so we're going to strike may, be sent via, insert the word certified back in, and then add the word or regular mail to the address reflected on line 13 and on line 33. I think that if we did that, I think that would take care of everybody's concerns, unless that's something that you would have a problem with it. And my friend down here in the front shaking his head no already.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask legal advice and their position on what that?
Absolutely.
You could do that. I don't know that it alleviates the issue that some people are having, but it does say you could do either or. It's the same way of saying it, but if someone wants to see
You shall do one or the other.
Yes, you shall do one or the other.
Not
The
may.
accomplishes the same thing, so it's really a comfort level, but it sounds like there's a policy difference.
It gives you the option.
Are you?
As long as they have as long as it gives them the flexibility to save the money that they need to save, where they can still send them out regular U.S. mail, and then they still have the option if they need to send up certified mail, then they're okay with that. I'm okay with that, but I don't want to tie their hands. We're trying to save money here.
Are you good with him offering that as an amendment?
Yeah.
All right. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd offer that as an amendment on line 13 and line 33.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got to do a motion on the bill first. Of course, we're not through. We'll do that at the when we get through. Any other questions on the bill? Okay, seeing none, we have one person signed up to speak, Maisie Lynn Causey with the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers.
Having me today. Some of the concerns that have been expressed are certainly our concerns as well. I mean, not to make light of it, but one man's waste is another person's notice of what could potentially put them in jail. When you fall out of compliance with child support, you have not necessarily been before a judge when that happens. So the notice that you're receiving through this certified mailing may be actually the first notice you've received of that problem with your child support to start with, but then certainly with your license. And realize, please, that when someone is stopped for driving on a suspended license, they are often arrested. This is not a citation offense because you're not legally driving. So of course, the officer's not going to leave you on the road. They're going to take you into jail. So there are some collateral costs to this bill that are going to be incurred at the county level, because now you're going to have to process people who may have been willing to rectify the situation had they simply received the certified mailing and notice of the suspension. Of course, I would have no way to quantify what that value is to you today, but there certainly will be a collateral cost if more people are being arrested on suspended driver's licenses. Excuse me. In addition, we do have some concerns, even just at a basic level, if you were going to go forward with this, with what regular mail is. If you look through the code, typically we use first class mail as the designation for mail that's something other than, for instance, certified. And then lines 14 through 15 of this bill, which state that this is the current law that's not changing, the mailing of the certified, in our case notice, by the department is deemed to conclusively be notice to the driver. This notice requirement really doesn't work unless you can prove it, and I would say prove it on both sides. So while I understand the suggestion of the lower cost means of proving that the mail was sent, it still doesn't allow the notice to be proven on the other side as well. So the other problem here with not having adequate notice is that there are appellate rights embedded in this code section. They're not included in the bill, but if you go to subsection D of 40-5-54.1, there is an ability for someone to appeal a suspension, but part of that process is going to require that all the parties can prove who had notice and who didn't have notice. So I'm just not sure what happens if you can't rely on the notice provisions without having the certification of the mail. The same follows through to section 2. Obviously the same outcomes will happen. We're going to see more people who, like I said, might have been willing to rectify the situation going to jail. And I would just add, I appreciate Leader Trammell's suggestion around the money. As I'm looking online now to check the prices, certified mail costs $3.35. Added to the first class mail, which we all know is changing pretty regularly, but I think it's at 55 cents right now. And then the return receipt that would be needed, frankly, by my adversaries on the other side to prove that my client, for instance, got the notice, costs another $2.75. And when you look at the reinstatement fees as they stand today, I don't know what the administrative costs are of processing the work behind the scenes for DDS. But for child support noncompliance, the reinstatement fee is either $25 if you do it by mail, $35 if you do it in person. The reinstatement fee on a failure to appear, which is what's contemplated in Section 2, is $90 if you pay it online, $100 if you pay it at the courthouse. So if those fees are not substantial enough right now to cover that additional less than $10 cost of certifying each piece of mail, honestly, I can't stand here and say that we'd have any problem raising those fees by $10 in order to cover the costs incurred by the mail, in order to protect the rights of the people whose privileges are being suspended without proper notice, which could happen if this bill is passed. And I would be happy to stand for any questions that you might have.
Number 11, Representative Montaigne.
Thank you for your presentation. Let me ask you a
Sure.
quick question. Do you know what the average cost of like a child support payment would be?
I do not know. Child support payments are pretty variable based on the size of the family.
Sure, right. So let's say they could run, I've seen them, I've heard from friends who pay child support, they're $800, $1,200. sometimes up to $2,000. Is that correct?
I'm not a family law lawyer. I would have to
Okay.
take your word for that.
I would just ask this, is there some notice when you didn't pay your child support for those months?
It has
To-
been
to
testified to,
yourself?
according to what has been already testified to
Sure.
today. I understand that there is, but like I said, that's not an area where I practice, and of course, I would expect that there.
I would say, and I'm not talking about the notice from the court. I guess I'm saying, is your notice from your own back pocket that you didn't pay your own child support?
I'm sorry, I don't.
So when I
follow
checked
what
my
you're
bank account, and I didn't pay the $1,200 to my wife so my kids could eat. That's probably notice there.
Of course, I hear what you're saying. So you're saying someone knows whether or not they paid their child support.
That's correct.
Certainly, but they may not realize that not paying their child support is related to their driving privileges. A lot of people don't realize that there's a connection between paying their child support and whether or not they have the privilege to drive on Georgia roads. So that's part of why it's necessary to receive the additional notice, why each agency who's going to try to penalize a person should have the responsibility of letting them know that that penalty is coming. And I don't think that agencies like DDS should be able to rely on the other governmental agencies' notices as sufficient for what the privileges that they are trying to revoke or suspend.
Well, I guess what kind of notice are we giving to the children who aren't going to eat that month? And that's kind of my dig here, is that we're talking about people who aren't paying for their kids to eat, to have clothes to go to school, to do the things that they need to do to be children in our state. And so I think when the policy decision was made to revoke licenses because people don't pay their child support, it's because we want to make sure that children in our state are grown up healthy. So I do appreciate your commentary here today. That would be my only comment to it.
Well, and please don't misunderstand me. We're not at all here today to ask you to cease suspensions. That's not at all what I'm here asking you to do. I'm asking you to do suspensions with proper notice and due process to the person whose physical liberty could be taken from them as a result of not realizing that their license is suspended when they're driving on the roads.
And to that point, there's two types of cheeses. There's one you get out of the deli, and there's the over-processed cheese that you get out of the cooler. And so this may be over-processed cheese, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything
No,
else?
no other questions.
Thank you, sir.
I'll take up number 16.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just a comment. Thank you. I appreciate you for bringing this to our attention with your comments. I believe that we should be collecting child support, but I also believe that the citizens that owe child support should also be receiving a certified letter. Thank you.
Ms. Leslie?
Yeah, can I say one more thing about that? We spoke with child support enforcement to get their support, and they were in support of this because they do send their notification as well in addition to us. And we do not suspend a license arbitrarily. We will get a notification from the court, from child support enforcement. So that's not something that we would just do. Yeah, and I just want to say again, we sent out $1 million, a little over $1 million worth of certified mail, and $500,000 is coming back. That's a big number. So that's a waste that we're trying to recoup, because if we're not able to recoup in that area, we don't know where else to try to get those fundings from.
Thank you, Ms. Leslie. At this time, we've got some members have to go to rules. Okay. We're going to. Pardon the word. We're going to suspend action on this bill for now, and the other bills on the agenda, and we're going to adjourn. Thank you.
You.